Instant reaction edition of Andy Ari On3 presented by Wendy's. Ari, we don't know if that's going to be the final score. Ohio State has the ball. It's 31-15, but we're pretty sure Ohio State's going to win the game. It's first and goal now, so Ohio State is going to win this game. They have seriously outclassed Indiana. They are way better than Indiana. That seems to be where we're at.
So, Andy, let's just cut the crap. We don't need to break down the game. Ohio State is a much better football team. Can you tell me what you learned today?
Go ahead, Ari.
Did you not hear what I said? Okay.
No, I did not. For those who don't know, I'm at the Florida Ole Miss game, so it is very loud here.
Andy is doing a really good job of doing the best that he can to be covering that game and talking about this with me, so I appreciate he's here. We learned today that Ohio State is really good at football and that Indiana is not as good as Ohio State at football.
Yeah, we did learn that, but that really wasn't the question, was it? Because we assumed that Ohio State would win this game. The question we had was, how does Indiana stack up against the other teams that it might be an at-large candidate against? Now, the game I'm watching will affect potentially what happens to Indiana, because this whole Indiana-Tennessee argument kind of goes out the window if Florida wins this game.
Yeah, well, the thing that is interesting is that, like, Indiana, I don't know that we're going to sit here and pretend like they are as good as Ohio State or Georgia or whoever else is built like Ohio State is. But what I think is interesting is that because Indiana's schedule did not have a marquee matchup coming into the year, or coming into this game, because Washington and Michigan turned out to be not very good this year, we have put the onus on a team that's probably going to finish 11-1 on the season to play Ohio State down to the wire. But there was a play in this game, Andy, that stood out to me, and it was the punt return touchdown, the 79-yard punt return touchdown that Caleb Downs had in the third quarter, where he did not even need to sprint. It was a leisurely jog all the way to the end zone. And it dawned on me, and not that I forgot, but Ohio State has 40 players on its team that are going to have long NFL careers. No matter what Curt Cignetti could do in a one-year period to flip this program, there's nothing that even Nick Saban in his prime could have done in that 1 year in Indiana to make Indiana an equal to Ohio State. So Indiana goes on the road to Ohio State and gets beaten pretty good in the rain in Ohio Stadium. And now we're supposed to take away from this that Indiana is not a playoff team. And I get it. Maybe they aren't. But at the same time, are we certain that Miami wouldn't get blown out in Ohio Stadium? Are we certain that Penn State wouldn't under the same circumstances? Are we certain that A&M wouldn't, or that Ole Miss wouldn't, or any other teams that they're going to get in because of it with a worse record? That's the thing that bothers me. It's like Indiana did not show up and play as good as it probably needed to be in the playoff. And I think they're going to miss it now as a result of this, depending on what happens in this Ole Miss game or in the remainder of the year. Right now, they can't feel pretty good. But we learned that they aren't as good as Ohio State today. Wow. Awesome. Awesome revelation there for them.
So here's the thing. The punter dropping the snap at the end of the first half cost them a touchdown. It would have been a 7-7 game at halftime. I'm not sure Indiana would have won if it played a clean game on special teams, but it would have been closer. So I'm with you. But this does open up the way this game shook out, does open up the argument, and we'll see. Ole Miss is driving right now, so we'll see if Ole Miss can win this, and then that would reinstate your Tennessee-Indiana argument. But you just mentioned Miami. Miami and SMU seem to be on a collision course to play in the ACC championship game at 11-1, both of them. The loser of that game is going to say, hey, guess what? I deserve to be in the playoff more than Indiana. And that might be the bigger question. That might be the bigger question now.
The thing that
Indiana versus everybody else.
The thing that bugs me about this scenario is that Indiana is going to potentially be left out of the playoff in favor of a team that would also get their doors blown off in the road in November at Ohio Stadium, because they got blown out in a road game at Ohio Stadium. So, I'm not even here to defend and say that Indiana is unquestionably the 9th best team in college football this year. We're going to land on hypotheticals or whatever we do at the end of the year to kind of figure this out. What I'm saying is them losing by 25 or whatever it's going to end up being in Ohio Stadium is not a litmus test for making the playoff. It was in the 14 field. You had to be as good as Ohio State in the 4-team field to make the playoff. You certainly do not have to be Ohio State.
But Ari, the committee has to decide who's better. A 10-2
and
Tennessee
they're probably
or
going
11-1 Indiana.
And they're probably going to have to pick a team that didn't have to go on the road to Ohio State to get to that point.
Or an 11-2 SMU or an 11-2 Miami. Like, who is it?
Yeah, so pick the teams that lost more but also didn't have to play in Ohio Stadium because Indiana got blown out at Ohio State. Is that not frustrating to you?
Yeah, but how else? It doesn't matter. If we're going to say they got to play the schedule they play and we respect the wins they have because they didn't lose against the schedule they played.
But we don't anymore. That's the problem. We don't respect
the one time they played somebody great, they got their doors blown off.
But we don't respect their wins anymore. They are defined by what just happened there because they had the fortune of having to play at Ohio State.
Ari, we respect their wins as much as we respect Miami's wins or SMU's wins. How much do we respect them? It's the same.
Yeah, no, I know. But I respect Miami and SMU too. The thing that I guess is bothering me is that we are going. What this is going to do is just going to result in another SEC team getting in. If Ole Miss is able to win this game, we're just opening up the door to Ohio to another team because Indiana lost.
To Tennessee is who you're opening up the door to.
So Tennessee is the beneficiary of not having to play at Ohio State. Like, so good for them. Like
Tennessee had to play at Georgia against Alabama. Like they had to play.
They did
a team like that on the
road.
They
lost one of those, right?
And they didn't lose like that. And then played another one of those teams at home, and then they beat them. So that's the thing. They have beaten a playoff team. Indiana has not.
Do you think that Ohio State would be the best team in the SEC? I'm just curious.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, it's
do you think Alabama? Do you think Alabama could be the best team in the SEC? Because Tennessee beat them.
I think that they are really good. Yeah. And listen, I hate that I've gotten to the point now where I'm like Indiana's biggest defender. It is what it is. Like they're not. They had an opportunity to play a close game and they didn't. If they get left out, then it's on them for not playing a closer game or not being good enough. But I just it bothers me that they have had a remarkable season and now they're just going to be defined by losing to the deepest, most talented team in college football,
but it may not
everybody else wouldn't.
Here's the deal, Ari. Well, it was always going to be defined by this because they didn't play anybody else. But here's the deal. They are big Gators fans right now. As we speak, there's 1:56 left. Ole Miss has the ball down, a touchdown. If Florida wins, I think Indiana is still probably in a good spot. Now,
but I will say this though, Andy. I did tell
runner-up is going to have a question about that.
I told you a month ago that 11-1 Indiana is not just walking in. I was right about that. I think that I was definitively right about that.
Yeah, I said they probably would. I think if Florida wins this game, I think they probably do.
Well, let me ask you this, because we are talking about Indiana in the playoff, because the entire country, I feel like, was watching this with the playoff in mind. Did your thoughts on Ohio State change at all, or do you feel more likely or more
We got an interception, Florida, by the way.
So
they now have the ball with 1:32.
Florida's probably going to end up winning the game there. So Ole Miss is going to be out of the playoff discussion. But do you change your mind, or does your viewpoint of what Ohio State can do this year change?
I always thought Ohio State was good.
Yeah.
They lost by 1 to Oregon.
Yeah. So I mean, it'll be interesting. And the cool thing about the live video that we're doing here is that it will serve a purpose. And then later on tonight, we'll have the full context of what it actually means, and we'll get to break it down again. So
I am so sorry, by the way, to the people whose TV viewing experience I spoiled. I did not realize I was that far ahead of you.
Yeah,
so sorry.
You were. Well, we heard the crowd, Andy. You're live from the swamp.
That's true. There's not much I can do about the crowd. The crowd cheering. I can't make them stop. But no, all right. But what I think is interesting, and this is something that I'm glad we're doing these videos, because this has gotten me thinking about it. I was not thinking about till we started talking what this really means. And you're talking about how unfair it is to Indiana. I don't think it's unfair to Indiana. Indiana got the benefit of playing a not so tough schedule. And yes, you will be judged on the hard team you had to play. But I don't think, especially given what's going on in front of me in Gainesville, I don't think that it's going to come down to Indiana, Tennessee now. I think it's more going to be Indiana ACC runner-up, which, by the way, one of those teams could lose next week. So we don't know.
Yeah. I guess there's 1.5 minutes left, Andy. And there's probably a lot for you to go view. Do you want to go view that, and then we'll come back in 30 seconds?
That's right. I'm going to view it. So we're going to send out a separate YouTube link, and you can watch that. It'll be me and Ari talking about Florida and Ole Miss and what I just saw, and then what happens next. You folks who are watching to see what happened with Indiana, you come to that one too, because the Hoosiers will play prominently into that as well, because all of this is interconnected now. This whole ecosystem is now interconnected. So, man, we knew it was going to be wild. I came today. I did not expect to see this. We'll talk to you soon.